This is one of the last parables we will be looking at. There are many other parables in the Bible, so if you want to hear more, ask your parents to read them to you. This next parable started with a man asking Jesus a question. The man who asks Jesus a question was very smart. Maybe he was trying to trick Jesus and see if he was a good teacher or not. This is what he asked. "Teacher, what should I do so I can go to heaven and live forever?" Jesus replied, "What is written in the Bible? What do you think?" The man answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself." "That is right," Jesus said. "Do this and you will live forever in heaven." But the man wanted to know more, so asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus decided to answer this question with a parable to help everyone who was listening understand. Jesus said, "There once was a Jewish man walking along a road. He was coming from Jerusalem and was heading to Jericho, which was a full day or two of walking. The road was rocky and there were small hills all around. The man was just humming to himself and enjoying the nice day when suddenly a group of men jumped out from behind a hill. They took all his belongings and tore off most of his clothes. They didn't want him to follow them, so they beat him up very badly and left him lying and bleeding on the side of the road. A few minutes later, a priest was walking down the same path and noticed the man lying on the side of the road. Do you know what he did? You'd think he would run over and help the man. Instead, he crossed the road and walked on the other side and acted like he didn't see the man. About an hour or so later, another man, called a Levite, was walking down the road. Levites were people who assisted priests with their work. He would probably help the man. But you know what he did? He slowed down and walked a little closer to the man, but then kept walking without helping him at all. You might be thinking that maybe the man lying by the side of the road looked like he was resting or something, and that is why the priest and the Levite didn't stop to help. The trouble is, it was easy to tell he was badly hurt. The man was bleeding, had most of his clothes ripped off him, and he was bruised and hardly breathing. Just a few minutes later, another man came walking. He was a Samaritan. One thing you should know about Samaritans is that Jews didn't like them. Jews usually didn't treat Samaritans very well, so they never got along. The man who was dying on the road was a Jew. So what do you think the Samaritan did? You would think he would walk by and maybe even laugh at the man. The children's version Bible story of the Good Samaritan. But as soon as he saw the man, he went over to him and felt compassion for him. He put bandages on his sores and poured oil and wine, which were quite expensive, on the sores to prevent them from getting worse. Then he lifted the man on his own donkey and took him to a hotel to take care of him. The next day the Samaritan took out enough money so the man could stay at the hotel until he was well enough to leave. He paid the man at the front desk and asked him to take care of the man. If he wasn't better after about 2 months, the Samaritan would come back and pay for any extra cost. After Jesus finished the story, he asked, "Which of the 3 men do you think was the neighbor to the man who was left beaten on the side of the road?" The man who asked him the question at the beginning replied, "The one who had compassion and helped him." Jesus told him, "Go and do the same."
This story from the Bible is about Jacob. If you don't remember, he had a twin brother named Esau, who he tricked out of his blessing from his father Isaac. Even though they were twins, Esau was born first, so he should have received the special blessing from his father, not Jacob. Jacob and his mother Rebekah tricked Isaac by making Jacob seem hairy like his brother Esau. Since Isaac could barely see, he wasn't able to tell who was who. In the end, Esau was very upset that he didn't receive the special blessing, so he decided he would kill Jacob as soon as their father died. It may seem very wrong that Jacob took Esau's blessing, but it was supposed to happen this way. The Lord told Rebekah when she was pregnant that she had 2 nations inside of her, one would be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So even though Jacob wasn't originally supposed to receive the blessing, this is the way God wanted it to be. Rebekah knew about Esau's plan to kill Jacob, so she told him to get out of town until Esau wasn't so mad anymore. So Jacob left. I'm thinking Jacob either walked or was riding a horse, and at the end of a long day of traveling he decided to stop for the night. It must have been a warm evening, because Jacob just slept under the stars. He didn't have a pillow with him, which even if he had, I'm not sure they would be anything like the pillows we have now, so he found a good-sized stone to lay his head on. He must have been tired because he fell into a deep sleep and began to dream. First he saw a long stairway that touched the ground, with the very top of it reaching heaven. Maybe in his dream heaven was where the clouds were, it doesn't say. Next he saw angels of God moving up and down the stairway. I imagine they were floating just above the stairs, almost like one escalator going up and the other down. Above the stairway, or even close to Jacob, stood the Lord. The Lord then spoke to Jacob, saying, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and Isaac. I will give you and all your family to come, the land on which you are lying. Your family will continue to grow through each generation, as much as the dust of the earth, which is lots. All of your family will spread out all over, and you will bless those around you. I will always be with you, watching over you, and will return you to this land until I have done everything I have promised you. When Jacob woke up, he realized that the Lord had been with him there. He was afraid because of the power and presence of God and said, How awesome is this place! This is the house of God, this is the gate of heaven. Before he left, Jacob used the stone that he rested his head on and set up a pillar and poured oil on it. This is like a marker for Jacob to remember the dream he had from God and to remember and thank God for the promise he made to him. He called the place Bethel, which means house of God. Then Jacob made a promise to God, if God will be with and watch over me on my journey and provide me with clothes and food, and bring me back home safe, then the Lord will be my God, and the pillar that I have made will be God's house, and all that you give me I will give 1/10 in return. Jacob had an amazing experience. I'm sure no one would be able to convince him that his dream wasn't a special message from God just for him. God can speak to us in many ways, through other believers, our conscience, through His creation, and through dreams as well. Of course we all have bad or crazy dreams, but I think if God really had something important He needed us to know, He could speak to you in a wonderful dream, and you would know without a doubt that it was a special message just for you from God.